Namaste, Shubhasayam, Suprabhatam, from whichever part of the world you are joining us for this Bhakti immersion today with Krishnadas-ji. This is the 12th day of Global Festival of Yoga that started from 21st June, that is International Day of Yoga. And this year we are focusing on a very important theme of healing. As we know today, the world is going through its own difficult times, and difficult times call for some extraordinary care towards which the whole, at the individual as well as the collective level, we need to heal ourselves. And many of our events for last few days, it was about culturing the emotions, dealing with childhood trauma, and even surrendering bhakti, Ishvara Pranidhana, the japa of Mrityunjaya mantra. So all these somehow are leading towards a bhakti immersion. And as though as a culmination of various sessions that came through all the while, today we have this session with Krishna Das ji. We are really grateful to have Krishna Das ji on this occasion. Before I invite Dr. Anuradha Chaudhary to introduce him and welcome him, I also like to take this opportunity to thank our collaborators for this session, for this whole event, that is GPIW, Global Peace Initiative of Women. This is a transnational organization, which is a worldwide organization, which is into various activities, including healing, eco-conservation through various process of dialoguing and discoursing. So they bring together the wise souls of the world to sit together and to look for answers to the problems of humanity and its crises. So from GPIW, we have its founder, Ms. Dina Mariam, who has joined us. Welcome and swagatam, Dina ji. Thank you very much for all the association and for all the help that you have given, the kind of support that you have given us in curating this session and also envisaging this whole event. Thank you very much. May I now invite Dr. Anuradha Chaudhary, who is the Assistant Professor at Department of Humanities and Social Sciences at IIT Kharagpur, and who is also a co-curator of this festival, to kindly introduce and welcome Krishna Das ji. Namaste.
Namaste, and thank you very much, Vinaya, and also to all our participants who have joined us. We are extremely blessed to have with us Shri Krishna Das ji today. I'd also like to extend our thank you to Marian, who is also another co-founder of GPIW and has supported this entire event through reaching out to people and also sharing this about the session with friends. And also to Nina ji for coordinating this event with us. Now, Krishna Das, a few words on Krishna Das ji. Krishna Das ji, or KD as his friends and family and fans call him, is the founder of Karuna Triloka Records International, Kirtanwala, USA. We were extremely privileged that he is here for the second edition as well, because he joined us last year for a session on Bhakti immersion, on deepening the yoga of devotion through Kirtan. And those of us who had attended it, I think, have still not forgotten the very deeply moving experience that it was. Krishnaji himself needs no introduction, as he is known worldwide as yoga's rock star. When we speak of bhakti music in today's world, his name features right on top, as he has carved a place in history for his invaluable contributions. His layering of traditional kirtan singing in an unforgettable, soulful voice with instantly accessible melodies and modern instrumentation enthralls his audiences across the world as he touches the deepest chords in even the most casual listener. His special contribution to bhakti music is that he has taken the call and response chanting out of yoga centers and into concert halls, becoming a worldwide icon and the best-selling Western chant artist of his time. all time, in fact. His album Live Ananda or Live Ananda, guess it can go both ways. It was released in January 2012 and was nominated for a Grammy in the Best New Age Album category. Uh, KD or Krishna Das ji's connection with India is very, very profound. He spent the late 60s traveling with the country as a student of Ram Das ji, and in August 1970, he finally came to India, which led him to meet Ram Das ji's own beloved guru, Neem Karoli Baba, who is known as Maharaj-ji. He was given the name by Maharaj-ji, and he began to chant as part of following the path of Bhakti Yoga and the Yoga of Devotion. Many of us have not been fortunate to have met Neem Karoli Baba previously, but in those who attended the session last year would have had almost like a very close encounter of Neem Karoli Baba by the wonderful words of and sharing of KD or Krishna Das ji. So with these few words, I don't want to delay any more. I invite Krishna Das ji to please come on screen and lead the session for us. Lead another memorable, unforgettable session for us. Thank you very much for being with us, and pranams.
Thank you. Well, for someone who needs no introduction, that was brutal. Yeah. Okay. Well, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. Hearing all those things, I just sit here and go, "What a leela!" This is all my Guru's grace, and I just open my mouth and sing, and he does everything. So happy to be here with you. Pranavam Pavan Kumar Kalabana Pavaka Gyanagan Jasu Hridayaga Vasim Ram Sarachabda Atulita Valadhama Himshal Badeham Nujavan Krishan Gyani Nama Graganyam Sakala Gunanidhanam Vanarannamadhisham Raghupati Priya Bhaktam Vatajatam Namam Goshpadi Kritavarisham Mashaki Kritarakshasam Ramayana Mahamalaratnam Andenilatmajam Anjana Nandaram Veeram Janaki Shokanashana Kapisa Ande Lanka Bhamkaram Ilanga Sindho Salilam Salilam Yoshokawahi Chanakatma Jaya Adaitane Dadahalamkam Namamitam Pranjali Ranjanayam Manojavam Maruttatulya Vegam Jitendriyam Buddhimatam Vardishtam Athatmajam Vanarutamukham Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Shri Ramadutam Sharanam Prapadye Anjaneya Matipatalanana Kanchanadra Kamaniya Vigraham Parijata Taramura Vasana Bhavayami Pavamana Nandanam Yatra Yatra Raghunatha Kirtanam Tatra Tatra Kritamastakhanjali Ashpavare Paripurna Lochana Maratinamat Rakshasantaka Balavaranga Bali Hanuman Ki Jai. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Sita Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Rama. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Sita Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Sita Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Rama. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Sita Rama, Rama Rama. Hare Rama. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Sita Rama, Rama 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 Rama. Hare Rama. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Sita Rama, Rama Rama. Rama Rama, Sita Rama Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Sita Rama Rama Rama, Rama Rama, Sita Rama Rama Hare Rama. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Sita Rama Rama Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Sita Rama Rama Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram, Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram, Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram, Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram, Shri Ram Jaya Ram Jaya Jaya Ram. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Sita Rama Rama Hare Rama. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Sita Rama Rama Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Sitaram, Rama Rama, Hare Rama. Jai Siya Ram, Jai Hanuman, Sankatamochan Kripanidhan. Jai Siya Ram, Jai Baba Hanuman, Karuna Sagar Kripanidhan. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. 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 Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, Jai Sitaram, Sitaram, Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Sitaram, 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 Jai Sitaram. Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram, Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram, Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram, Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram, Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram. Govinda Hare, Gopala Hare, He Prabhu Dinadala Hare. Govinda Hare, Gopala Hare, He Prabhu Dinadala Hare. Govinda Govinda Hare, Gopala Hare, He Prabhu Dinadaya Hare. Govinda Hare, Gopala Hare, He Prabhu Dinadala Hare. Govinda Hare, Gopala Hare, He Prabhu Dinadala Hare. Govinda Hare, Gopala Hare, Govinda Hare Gopala Hare He Prabhu Dinadala Hare Govinda Hare Gopala Hare He Prabhu Dinadala Hare Govinda Hare Gopala Hare He Prabhu Dinadala Hare Gopala, Gopala, Devakinandana Gopala. Gopala, Gopala, Devakinandana Gopala. Bhaja Devakinandana Gopala, Devakinandana Gopala. Bhaja Devakinandana Gopala, Devakinandana Gopala. Gopala, Gopala, Devakinandana Gopala. Gopala, Gopala, Devakinandana Gopala. Devakinandana Gopala, Devakinandana Gopala. Devakinandana Gopala, Devakinandana Gopala. Gopala, Gopala, Devakinandana Gopala. Gopala, Gopala, Devakinandana Gopala. Devakinandana Gopala, Devakinandana Gopala. Devakinandana Gopala, Devakinandana Gopala. Gopala, Gopala, Devaki Nandana Gopala. Gopala, Gopala, Devaki Nandana Gopala. Devaki Nandana Gopala, Devaki Nandana Gopala. Devaki Nandana Gopala, Devaki Nandana Gopala. Gopala, Gopala, Devaki Nandana Gopala. Gopala, Gopala, Devaki Nandana Gopala. Gopala, Gopala, Devaki Nandana Gopala. Shri Guru Charana Saroja Raja Nijamana Mukuru Sudhari Varano Raghubhara Bimala Jasu Jodaya Kupalachari Buddhihin Tanu Janake Sumiram Bhavan Kumar Siyaram Allabudhi Vidya Dehu Mohi Aru Kale Subhakar Syavara Ramachandra Padaje Sharanam Jaya Hanuman Gyana Guna Saga Jaya Kapi Sati Loka Ujag Ramaduta Tulita Baladham Anjani Puta Pavan Sutanam Mahavira Bikram Bajrangi Ummati Nivar Sumati Kesan Kanchanavaram Viraj Subesa Kanana Kundala Kunchita Kesa At Bajrora Dvaja Viraje Kande Muja Jane Ursaj Suvan Kesari Nanda Teja Pratap Mahajagaban Vidyavan Guni Ati Chatu Ramakaja Karibe Koatura Prabhu Charita Sunibe Korasya Ramalakana Sita Manabasi Sukshmaru Padarisiya Hindakava Vikataru Padaralanka Imaru Padariya Sudasari Ramachandra Kekaj Samvari Sanjeevan Lakana Jiyai Shri Raghuvira Shiralai Ragupati Kini Bahut Barai Tumam Priya Bharatai Samabhai सहस्रबदन तुम्हारो जस गावें, अस कई श्रीपति कंठ लगावें। सनकादिक ब्रह्मादि मुनीस, नारद शारद सहित अहिस, यम कुबेर दिगपाल जहांते, कभी को बिद काय सके कांते। उपकार सुग्रीवां कीन्हा, राम मिलाय राज्य पद दीन्हा। तुमरो मंत्र विभीषण मान, लंकेश्वर भय सब जग जान। युग सहस्र जो जन पर भान, लील्यो थाई मधुर पल जान। प्रभु मुद्रिका मेले मुख माही, चला दिलंगे गए अक्षर जनाही। दुर्गम काज जगत के जेते, सुगम अनुग्रह तुम्हारे तेते। राम दुआरे तुम रखवारे, होतन आज्ञा बिनु पैसारे। सब सुख लाहे तुम्हारी शरण, तुम्हारा चक काहू को धरन। आपन तेज समारो आपे, तीनों लोक हंकते कांपे। भूत पिशाच निकट नहीं आवे, महावीर जब नाम सुनावे। नासे रोग हरे सब पीड़ा, जपत निरंतर हनुमत बीर। संकट ते हनुमान छुड़ावे, अनुक्रम बचन ध्यान जो लावे। सब पर राम तपस्वी राजा, तिनके काज सकल तुम साज। और मनोरथ जो कोई लावे, सोवे अमित जीवन पल पावे। चारों युग प्रताप तुम्हारा, हे प्रसिद्ध जगत उजियार। साधु संत के तुम रखवारे, असुर निकंदन राम दुलारे। अष्ट सिद्धि नो निधि के दाता, असवर दीन जानकी माता। राम रसायन तुम्हारे पास, सदा रहो रघुपति के दास। तुम्हारे भजन राम को पावे, जन्म जन्म के दुख बिसरावे। काल रघुबर पुर जाय, जहाँ जन्म हर भक्त कहाय। और देवता चिट्ट न डरई, हनुमत से सार सुख करे। संकट कटे मिटे सब पीरा, जो सुमेरे हनुमत बलबीर। जय 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 हनुमान गोसाई, पाको गुरुदेव की नाई। जो 7 बार पाठ कर कोई, चित ही बंदी महासुख होय। हनुमान चालीसा, होया सिद्धि साकी गणेश। तुलसीदास सदा हरि शेर, कीजे नाथ हृदय महांदेर। पवन तनय संकट हरन, मंगल मूर्ति रूप सिया राम। राम लखन सीता सहित, हृदय बसर सुर भूप। सियावर रामचंद्र पद जय शरणम, Mangalamurti Martanandan Sakala Amangalamulanikanda Mangalamurti Martanandan Sakala Amangal Mulanikandan Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram 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 Jai Siya Ram Jai Baba Hanuman Sankata Mochan Kripanidhan Jai Siya Ram Jai Jai Hanuman Sankata Mochan Kripanidhan Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram 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 Jai Bajranga Bali Hanuman Sankata Mochan Kripanidhan Jai Bajranga Bali Hanuman Karuna Sagar Kripanidhan Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Jai Ram Shri Ram Jai Ram Jai Ram Shyamar Ramachandra ki Jai.
Ram Jai Jai Ram. Thank you very much for another very soulful session. Because our topic was about healing and bhakti, if I could just ask you to unravel the magic that bhakti really does to allow us to heal. So, from your personal experience, if you had to just try and trace the, what do you feel is the process that allows bhakti to, to heal?
Bhakti means devotion, bhakti means love. Not interpersonal love, but the love that lives within us as our own true being. That's who we are. When you're in touch with that, when that flow is, when one becomes aware of that flow and lives in that flow, no matter what occurs in the outside world, whether it's pleasure or pain, we naturally just have a different relationship with it. We have a different take on it. We have a different reaction to it. Ramana Maharshi said that everything that's going to happen to us is written when we're born. What's going to happen is going to happen. What's not going to happen is not going to happen. Of course, we don't know what those things are. But he said, so in that case, the best option is to remain in silence. That doesn't mean not talking. It means to remain in the silence of our true being, which is beyond thought and emotion and stories and all the stuff of daily life. It includes all that, like the sky includes the clouds. But the clouds don't change the sky. The sky, the space is always the same. So if we're in that space, then we can deal with whatever arises. And the true healing, of course, is the healing of our connection to our own soul. Now, that's not to make light of physical suffering and emotional suffering and psychological suffering. It's just when you're plugged in to a deeper place in your own self, then those things feel different. I just remembered a funny story. You know, Maharaj-ji used to, every once in a while, he would just go, "What do you want?" to somebody, you know, out of the blue, you know, for no, you know, everything would be, and all of a sudden he'd go, "What do you want?" So I'd seen that a few times. So I had my answer. And I always kept it ready. And I was ready, always ready. And really, it was about a year later, all of a sudden he looks at me and goes, "What do you want?" And I looked at him and I said, "Prema Bhakti." Crazy, mad, ecstatic, loving devotion. And he went, "Abhi nahi, thodi der baad mein." He said, "Not now, not now. Later, not now." I'm still waiting.
I think Dina wanted to say something. So, Dina, would you like to please come in and share your thoughts or share some things?
I have nothing to add to that. I'll just say the only antidote I know to all suffering is to be in the presence of the divine. And how one does that, it's both the most mysterious and the simplest thing. You know, it's grace, and yet it's so simple as just opening your heart. And that's why chanting is such a powerful way to be in the presence of the divine. And so you can't not feel the presence of Ram when you're chanting to Ram. And how can that not lift you out of whatever you're going through? To be in the presence of the divine just takes you into another realm. And it's an opening of the heart. And so to me, it's the antidote for whatever is going on, physically, mentally, emotionally, or spiritually. And chanting opens the heart to that, opens the door to that presence.
Yeah, very much so. But you know, for people who don't think of things like that or think in that way, it's really very simple, and people feel it. It's just that most people won't allow that kind of opening. There's too much investment in separateness and too much investment, too much fear and anxiety and self-hatred and stuff like that. So it's very heartbreaking to see how much suffering we create for ourselves, you know. But the point is this, that unless we plant some seeds of the things we want to grow, they won't grow. So that's why one must start doing some practice from wherever one is. One doesn't have to believe in anything. You don't have to have blind faith. You don't have to have any kind of nothing. You just have to know that stuff hurts and you want to get free of that. And these practices are what will allow us to be free of that kind of dukkha, that kind of suffering. But we must plant some seeds or they won't grow. The problem is that most people, so many people, are planting seeds of suffering all the time. And every moment of every day, every thought, every action is a seed. And so one has to find a way to stop planting the negative seeds, the hateful seeds, the fearful seeds, and find a way to try to cultivate the goodness that's already within us. You see, if we uncover what's within us, we're all fine. But we're stuck in those covers, in those outer identities. So,
You know, the greatest gift is the yearning for the divine. How we can foster that in ourselves, that yearning for the divine.
yeah.
That's what practices help do, whether it's meditation or chanting. But that's the only thing to pray for, is that yearning.
And that's the grace. Having that longing is what saves us, and it also screws up the rest of our life totally.
That's right. Nothing else will satisfy us after that.
Yeah, because nothing else works. You know, that when you have that longing, everything else is, you know, it's like keep putting your hand in a fire, hoping that someday it'll feel good, but it's never going to feel good. So you have to follow that line. And everyone has that. Everyone's looking for that. Everyone is looking for a certain feeling. And everything those people do is to try to find that feeling and to heal their hearts. But humans have a problem. It's called bad aim. You know, we're aiming at the wrong stuff. We're grabbing at the wrong stuff. So, you know, this is why when Buddha came out of the jungle, the first thing he said was, hey, stuff does not work. It don't work. You know, everywhere you look here, there's going to be suffering because you're trying to get water from squeezing a stone. It's not going to work. And once you understand that it doesn't work, that's a really big thing. I mean, you have to, it's not understanding and here. It's like here, you see, oh, I'm never going to get what I want from the outside world. It's never going to be enough. And then you start waking up. That's the beginning of waking up and really trying to turn ourselves in the right direction.
But Krishnadas ji, you sound it, I mean, it appears so easy when you say this and we listen to you. In fact, when you led us through this session, we were also partaking that intoxication. Okay. But the problem of the current day is we live mostly in our head. So coming back to the heart and allowing it to open becomes such a big or a difficult task. How can one restore? Because this seems to be more natural, living in the heart, being able to open up it for the whole world. It seems to be so natural and spontaneous, yet somehow it's got closed. How do we open that? How do we get back
Well,
to that state?
first of all, you have somehow or other, you get a sense of what you have to do. So you say, well, while we were chanting, we feel a certain kind of, we feel something. And the more times we feel that, you know, one of the definitions of meditation is becoming familiar with. The more we taste that and touch that, we become more familiar with how it feels to be released from all this stuff. And so when I share the chanting practice with people, I say, listen, it's really simple. You sing, and when you notice you haven't been paying attention, you sing. That's mind training. You sing, and then you'll be sitting with 1,000 people, and everybody's singing, and you're singing, and 20 minutes or half an hour will go by, and you're thinking about what you're going to get tomorrow when you go shopping. And then all of a sudden you go, oh, and you come back. See, the funny thing is, you're gone. You're living in dreamland, right? You're singing, people are singing, the music is going on, I'm making lots of noise, everybody's making lots of noise, but you're living in dreamland. Then all of a sudden you go, oh, you wake up in the dream. That instant of waking up is very special because, look, we didn't do that. We were gone. How did we wake up? Why? How could that ever happen? That we woke up and recognized that we were gone. So, first you have to add a practice to your life, something to come back to. Otherwise, you're gone, and then your last breath comes, and then that's it. You have to start again. That's why we do practice. It helps us find our way back home. And you start from where you are. Yes, so you don't feel anything, but you do know that you don't feel good. And people say these practices help us, so you try it. There's always this point where you have to suspend a little disbelief in order to get your feet in the water. Like the water's really cold, right? And you're afraid to put your foot in. But then all right, you say, okay, maybe it's not that cold. And you put your foot in, and oh, it's not so bad. But if you don't suspend that disbelief long enough to do some practice, then what? Maharaj-ji said, take the name, whether you feel good, whether you feel bad, whether you're angry, whether you're sad, whether you're tired, take the name. If you don't, then what? And he said also that at the beginning, and the beginning could be a long time. For me, it's been 50 years. At the beginning, you may not feel any real devotion. But gradually, something will happen. And then one day, the real Ram will come out. The real opening will happen. So it's not so much that you have to have faith or believe or try to manipulate yourself to feel something that you think is holy. No, you just have to start learning to let go of your thoughts and practicing that. And that's how we get the strength to be good human beings. That's what it's about, As far as I know, there's no other planet we can go to at this point. So this is it, one life at a time, that's what we have. So let's try to do something good with it, and to get the strength to do that, and to get the strength to treat other people the way we ourselves want to be treated. One has to really, really long for that. And we all have that longing. It's just that in this world at this time, most people don't understand that there is another way to live. And that just means they keep creating suffering over and over for themselves and the people that they don't want to suffer, they create suffering for. So you just have to, you don't have to believe something first, you just have to have enough of this, All right, bus, coffee, okay, bus, enough. Let me do something. I mean, we have people in the West, we have like thousands of channels on the television. And you can go all day and all night and never find one thing to watch. And then finally say, bus, let me do some sitting, This is never going to work. So.
I also just wanted to ask you in the same line that there are some people who might not be believers at all. Like you said, that in order to start bhakti, the feeling you have to at least have some faith that, okay, let me start something. But we have a lot of appreciation coming in, of course. And we have one young scholar, sadhaka, Dushyant Soniji, is asking, can we sink deep into bhakti when one has never had that inclination growing up? So how do we start?
You start where you are. Why don't you try to find out who you are? Don't try to find something else, some feeling that you think is out there somewhere. That's not bhakti. Bhakti is knowing reality. Because when you know reality, you're in bliss, you're in truth, you're in being. So don't just find out who you are. You go through your whole life, you don't for 1 second know who you are and what you're doing. We're lost in thoughts and start coming back to here. Find out who you are, and when you start that quest, that journey, it will lead you to what you're looking for. Forget about bhakti, forget about devotion, forget about love. Just find out what the hell you are. Deal with what you have right now. Don't think you have to be something else or find something else somewhere else. Everything is right where you are right now, but you don't know what that is. So start with what you see in the mirror. That's what is that, Ask those questions. When the mind quiets down and is flowing without distraction, this is bhakti. The feelings that arise, what we experience at that moment. It's beyond talking about. It's beyond thinking about. When we know who we are. This is true bhakti. This is real devotion. Because then, when we know who we are, we also know who everyone else is, and we're all the same. There's only one of us in the whole universe. So we have to release all the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves. So this person is telling herself a story that she believes. Why? She's programmed to believe, I don't know anything about this, I can't start, it's beyond me. Okay, Ram, come back. Let that story go and just come back. You have to start somewhere, and the best place to start is right here, where you are right now. Don't try to be somebody else. You don't have to put on holy clothes and do all the marks and do everything and take 20 baths a day. Forget about it. Just be yourself. Find out who you are, as you are right now. So speaketh.
When we talk of bhakti, again, like one thing is that it makes it sound so simple, and I guess if one starts it is as simple as that. When we talk of bhakti, we have the practice of bhakti through the kirtans, but you also have the relationship with the guru as a bhakta. Would you like to elaborate on that and the role that that plays also in the process of healing?
Guru is not somewhere else. Guru is not somebody else. Guru is not something else or someone else. Guru, God, and self are not different. But we go wandering around looking for stuff in the outside world. You can't find a guru. When Maharaj-ji left his body, I went a little bit crazy for only 20 years. And I would run through the jungle, and I would meet these Babas in the jungle, and I'd say, I'm looking for my guru. Have you seen him? And they would say, your guru? Your guru is looking out of your eyes right this moment. And I went, and I went running through the jungle. I wasn't ready to hear that, So Guru, God, and Self are not different. Everything we need is already inside of us. Start now. Deal with what's in your life right now and try to find a way to be at ease with it. And the more at ease you feel with the things in your life, even the negative things, you're releasing the things that cause suffering. Some things, Ram Dass had a catastrophic stroke, and he was in a wheelchair for over 20 years. Now, the amount of suffering that he went through on a daily basis was astounding. And he never complained. And he used that. At first he used to say, Maharaj-ji stroked me. And this is fierce grace, the stroke. But then he came to India and saw Siddhima for the last time he came to India after the stroke. And she said, Ram Dass, Maharaj-ji did not give you the stroke. This is your karma. What Maharaj-ji gives you, the grace, is that you can, through the stroke, you can work on yourself, you can overcome the negativity. So he never walked again, really, and his physical condition was horrific, the amount of pain every day. But he overcame pride and anger, and he was a big guy, a famous guy, a lot of pride there, and now he had to take help from everyone. He couldn't do anything for himself. So even though the body was suffering terribly, his heart was wide as the world and totally at ease, even though he went through terrible things. You can be okay, even if the outside world is not healed in the way you want it healed. So, once again, because we look for happiness outside, we think healing has to mean physical healing or psychological healing. That's not necessarily the case, and that might not be the case for somebody who's very ill or very sick. That doesn't mean you can't be okay with it ultimately. It's very hard, but that's the real work. If I stub my toe in the morning, I'm screwed. The rest of the day, I'm gone. I can't deal with anything. But I saw Ram Dass deal with stuff that was so brutal and so deep, and he overcame all that. So that's the healing. The only thing we take into our next birth is our state of mind. So if we haven't healed our hearts, we bring forth all that suffering with us when we go. So to really understand healing, I think it doesn't necessarily mean that we can fix the outside world the way we want it to be fixed. Not that it won't happen. It might happen. But the most important thing is how we go through our day, how we live, and how we treat ourselves and others. Not so easy. Very difficult. But what else are you going to do?
I was just reminded of a quote by two authors. One by Haruki Murakami, who says that pain is inevitable, but suffering is optional. And that's what the case of Ram Dass Ji so beautifully highlighted. And another by Viktor Frankl, who says that circumstance can take away from us all our freedoms but the last, and that is to choose our attitude in any given circumstance. So this choice of having.
Yeah, I definitely agree with those statements. It's just that for somebody who's really suffering, they already feel that they've lost the ability to choose. They feel that it's always going to be like this. That's the psychological suffering. It'll always be like this. It's never going to change. It's always going to hurt. I'll never make it. All that stuff. And that's the real, that's the worst part of it. The same thing can happen to two different people, and they can have two completely different reactions to it. One person could be completely destroyed by it. The other person, for some reason, is able to overcome whatever suffering that was, at least inside, and really flourish and blossom. Maharaj-ji said that chanting the Hanuman Chalisa can actually change fate, and that every line of the Chalisa is Maha Mantra. And he also said, Ram Nam Karne Se Sab Pura Ho Jate Hai. So I'm going on repeating the name of Ram, these names. Everything is accomplished. Everything is accomplished. So ultimately, we're being forced to turn within to find that to come home. And until we really come back home, it's always going to be difficult. It's going to be our work.
I think that that's also like in the Indian tradition, they considered life as all of life as ashrama. That shrama means that struggle, that strain from beginning to end, it is nothing but a struggle. So if anybody thinks that it's going to be easy at any point,
Yeah.
they're on the wrong planet. And that's in the wrong role of existence, possibly. I'll just, because you mentioned about the Hanuman Chalisa, we have a question here by Lalit Chaturvedi ji, who's saying that I have tears in my eyes every time I listen to and recite Hanuman Chalisa and some other bhajans with full involvement. However, I don't feel any happiness or sadness at the same time. I am unable to understand this. Do you know what this could be? And
Yeah.
the tears in the eyes after chanting Hanuman Chalisa happen, especially after reciting the Sundarakanda daily for a whole month. So, if you have any,
Yeah. What else can you do? Tears are just going to come. It's not sadness, it's not happiness, it's relief and release. You're touching home, you've turned towards yourself, you've turned towards the one, you've turned towards that love, you're tasting it somewhere inside of you. You know, that's why the tears come. Doesn't have to be a thought involved in it or an emotion. It's deeper than that. It's a wonderful feeling, that kind of crying. It's very sweet, very sweet. It's a blessing.
I don't think it's coincidental, but after your session, there's a nice bout of rain that has suddenly come down on Pondicherry when we didn't expect it. So, talking of tears and a release, I think there is something cosmic at the moment happening here. Uh, just another question, and very pertinent to today's times. When you spoke of the loss of your guru and the pain that came from then, today, courtesy Corona, there has been a lot of loss that has happened, unexpected loss. Um, how do you think, the role of, what could be the role of Bhakti, Kirtan? How do we find solace in this whole situation of today?
Well, love never dies. The love that we have for the people who have left us physically, that's the real connection. Were the bodies who they are? If they were, how can you merge with the body? You just bang against it. It's the love in those people that we felt for those people and feel for those people. That's the real connection. And as time goes by, we lose the attachment to the physical being, and we can emphasize that feeling of love that we have when we feel them and talk about them and think about them. But as a human being, you experience grief and sadness because that's what humans do. But inside, we're still connected. Like my father died in 2008, I guess, something like that. And I feel him. He's here with me all the time. Maharaj-ji's here with me, Ramdas, all the people that I had this very deep connection with. Connection that goes beyond this life even. So, and as my friend Bob Thurman says, who's a great Tibetan scholar and disciple of His Holiness the Dalai Lama, he said, there are no dead beings. Bodies come and go, but beings don't die. The soul never dies. What does it say in the Bhagavad Gita? The same thing. You can't cut it, you can't wet it, it doesn't die, it doesn't go anywhere. But we're lazy, or we're stuck in our external stuff, and so we suffer. And that's okay, that's what we do. You can't pretend you don't feel these things. But, you know, devotion and wisdom, these are not things we have to convince ourselves about mentally. These are things that we must experience directly. Because these are the things, this is the reality. The illusion that we're in, that we're all separate and that people come and go, this is where the suffering is. So it's a question of actually waking up to what's real. And it doesn't mean you have to negate your suffering and try to push it away. That won't work. But you can see what it is if once you touch home base inside. It changes the way you feel about things. You don't have to feel like you have to do the change. Once you touch reality, everything will change little by little. And that only happens through practice, and practice happens through grace. So, what are you going to do? Surrender. That's the only deal. That's all it is.
Because that would be the next logical question. How do we get grace?
By grace. You know,
How do we
the
receive it?
definition.
How do we become ready to receive the grace?
You recognize the reality of suffering. You see that everything in this world doesn't last, always changes, and your heart longs for something real. That prepares you for grace. The longing, it purifies your heart. It purifies you, because the more you get into that longing, the more you are not concerned with the outside world. The longing is for that feeling, for reality, for that love. That's what prepares it. You know, it's raining everywhere all the time, but we have to cup our hands or we don't catch the drops to drink. So it's that longing that forces us to cup our hands and take our hands off the TV clicker or the wheel of the car or the food in the mouth or whatever it is, and cup our hands and pray for grace. That's what, and that's happening already by grace. Nobody deserves grace. The definition of grace is grace. Who deserves that? Nobody. It's not given to people who deserve and refused to people who don't deserve. Grace is grace. So it's something that functions under the radar of our conceptual mind. If we even think about these things, that's already grace working on us. If we have any inkling that there's something to find in life, that it's not all about this external stuff and not all about getting more and losing this and grabbing this and pushing this away, that's already grace working. And you know, that's the famous image of the fish in the water says he's thirsty. You know, there's water all around, but we don't see it. We don't see it, we don't drink it, we don't taste it. So we want to, and when we want to enough, it happens. You can't fool yourself, your capital S self. You can't. We can fool our small s selves because that's all small s self is, fool. But we can't fool reality. When we really want it, it's going to be right here. And the only way we really want it is when vairagya starts to grow. You know, most people define vairagya as like renunciation. But the way I've heard it really, it's the natural falling away of fascination with outside stuff. It's a natural development. where the stuff that you used to cherish and grab and hold on to, it just doesn't work anymore. It just doesn't make it. And so you start naturally looking for something that will fill you up. It's a natural thing, really, because when we are in our true self, we don't need anything. We can participate fully with everything, but we have no need for it to do anything for us. So that vairagya is very, you can't buy that. You can't fake it. You can't fool the one who lives within us as who we really are. Although we try all the time.
I'll just say a few closing words. At the beginning, one receives spiritual gifts to stir the desire, but then one has to put in the effort, and that's what increases the desire and draws the divine, draws you into the presence of the divine. And the practices, they're spiritual laws, they work. Chanting, mantra, repeating the name, repeating Ram, these are spiritual laws, it works. It does bring you into the presence of the divine, but there's no knowing of when. One may have to do it for 50 years or 50 lifetimes. But there is a science to it, to these practices. So even if you feel nothing, just by engaging in spiritual practice, whether it's meditation, pranayam, or mantra, chanting, one has to just know that there's transformation taking place. There's a transformation of consciousness, an awakening of consciousness that is taking place, whether you're aware of it or not. So one has to keep on keeping on. That's the key spiritual message, is one has to keep on keeping on. And eventually, it's all there. One is awake to who one is. So I want to thank Krishna Das. It's always wonderful to be with him, and Vinay and Anu. It's great to see you again too, and I'm so happy that we have this partnership again this year.
Thank you very much, Dinaji, Marianji, and Hanaji from the GPIW for making this possible, this evening possible. It's very strange, but I have this feeling, as you know, that 1 year has not passed. And I'm stuck with that same kind of a feeling at the end, that I don't want this to end. So, but you know, everything has to pass on. And like you also mentioned, I was struck because just today I read that verse, that line from the Yoga Sutra, which says that sarvam, dukkham, sarvam vivekinaha. So for the wise man, everything is dukkham because they know it will all pass. And they know, therefore, that it will, if you get attached, there will be all the suffering that will come forth. So if I can ask you this, because you spoke of grace so beautifully, please share with us any one really moving moment for you, of a grace-filled moment for you with your Guru, with Neem Karoli Baba, with Maharaj-ji, so that we can partake of something special again.
Well, start at the beginning, when I first met Ramdas, the very first time I met him, he had come back from India from his first trip, where his whole life had been transformed by Maharaj-ji. And I heard about him from some friends, and I went up to meet him. When I walked into the room where he was sitting on the floor, his eyes were closed. I walked into that room, and without any eye contact, without a word being spoken, just walking into that room, all of a sudden I knew that whatever it was that I was looking for, and I didn't know what to call it, but whatever it was I was looking for, it was real. It was real, it was in the world, and it could be found Just this happened, and that was the beginning of the rest of my life. That was the first moment that I consciously felt what I understood later was Maharaj-ji's presence. That was a moment of something. And from that moment on, I always felt him everywhere, all the time. I started dreaming about him, and all I'd seen was a little black and white picture. How could I dream about him? How could I? In fact, I had this one dream. I came into my public school, my elementary school gym, where we used to have dances and play sports. And I walked into the gym, and there was Maharaj-ji sitting on the stage on a tucket. And there was this man standing next to him with a white shirt and a dhoti and a vest. And later I met that man in India, Dada. So I walked into the room and I did Danda Pranam in the dream. I didn't even know what that was. And I'm praying, I'm saying, I have to feel something. I have to feel something. Please let me feel something, right? So he got up off the tucket. He walked down the steps at the edge of the stage. He walked across the floor. He put his hand on the back of my head. And slowly this bliss started to come through my body. It was like, and it gets stronger and stronger and stronger. And I thought, I'm going to die. And at that moment, he took his hand off and went back to the stage. So 2 years later, I'm at Kenchi in the temple in the mountains with Maharaj-ji. I had already been there for a year. And one day I came late to the temple for some reason. And when I came in, he was walking across the courtyard by himself. And I had never seen him walk before. We were always invited into a room that he was sitting, or he came right out and sat down. I had never seen him move. And I just stopped, like about 30 feet away from him, because he was walking. He had a very unique walk, kind of like a baby, bouncing from one leg to the other, like a 3-year-old or something like that. He was walking the way he walked in my dream. And I just went, and the next thing I know, I'm standing right in front of him. I was holding these apples. I didn't even offer the apples to him. I was just like, and he just laughed. He laughed. He went, oh, he's crazy. And then he took the apples and he threw them to other people. And it was such an incredible, how could I know how he walked in my dream before I met him, before I'd even seen, I only saw one, Ram Dass had a couple of small black and white pictures. It was really something. So anything can happen for anyone at any time. God, Guru, Self can touch us at any time, anyone, anywhere. It's all available all the time. And when we really want it, when we're really hungry for it, that's when you can't fool yourself. So sometimes it's very painful to let go of our stuff. But we have to recognize what life is, and it's not easy.
This thought is itself so reassuring, Krishnadas ji, that God, Guru and Self can touch us at any point of time. Just one should be able to recognize it when it happens.
Yeah. And what does Hanumanji say? He says, what about me? There's nothing about me. I'm so low that if someone even thinks of me in the morning, they have to throw their breakfast away. That I'm a monkey. What's so great about a monkey? Monkey, it's all Ram's grace, So.
I guess we are all monkeys in our own ways, and yeah.
We are. We should be so lucky to really be monkeys. Maharaj used to say, who's Hanuman? And we give him all the book answers. Oh, the perfect servant, the great devotee. And he said, Nay, say, Ram ke swas,
Wow.
the breath of Ram. He said, these people say, Hanuman bandar hai. He said, that's what they say he's a monkey. And he would laugh, Ram ke swas, the breath of God.
I think that's a moment of breathlessness for all of us. I think even to understand that, I think all of us, we can feel it, but to understand it will take time.
Don't try to understand it. Waste the time. Feel it. Feel it.
It's unbelievable how filling that idea can be, that Hanuman is the breath of Rama. Just the very suggestion, I mean, the very idea of that, because I think the first time that I'm hearing it like that, just the very thought of it can just be so filling of the being, that.
Yeah.
And it's quite interesting because he's also Pavana Sutta. He's also the son of the prana of the
Yeah.
wind and the.
Robert Swoboda, my friend Robert Swoboda, is a great, great, wonderful being. He talks about that a lot because he's an Ayurvedic physician also and a sadhak. He talks about Hanumanji as the pran in the body. And because there's a microcosm and macrocosm. It's like that, Outside and inside, they work, they reflect each other. So. Inner
But
Ramayan, outer Ramayan. Yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
maybe, please.
No, that's all I was going to say. We always ask Maharaj-ji, how can we find God? We figured, he liked us enough to let us hang around. Maybe he would tell us. So he said, serve people. What? Serve people? What do people have to do with God? And then we said, okay, maybe he's a little bit out there. So Baba, how do we raise Kundalini? He said, feed people. What? He never told us to do practices for our own sake, for the sake of our enlightenment. Very interesting. He said, serve everyone, love everyone, feed everyone, remember God. By remember God, he was referring to japa, the repetition of the name. When I was going to kill myself in India, I had a full-on nervous breakdown in the temple. Hallucinations, everything. I was going to jump in the river. Of course, it was only 6 inches deep, but I thought maybe I'd get my head under a rock or something, you know. So he looked at me and said, "What are you going to do, jump in the river?" Ha! He laughed. He said, "You can't die. Worldly people don't die." He said, "Only Jesus died the real death." What is he talking about? In a Hanuman temple in the Himalayas, little guy with it wrapped up in a blanket talking about Jesus? Then he said, why? Because he never thought of himself. There was no me in there anymore. He gave his life for his people. He never died. No one understands.
I think
Worldly people don't die the real death. The real death is the death of the fantasy of separation, the fantasy of the ego. You know, you do your practice and you live your life. That's it. You don't worry about it.
Mm-hmm.
You don't evaluate. You don't judge. You don't measure. Well, today, while I meditated, I only had 62,432,086 thoughts. Maybe tomorrow I'll have less. Forget it. Just do your stuff and live your life and try to be a good person. And don't worry about it. That's the deal. You're going to worry about it anyway, believe me. But try to get over it.
So, very interesting. You answered a question that was there of can you suggest any way to kill the ego? And they wanted to also know, Shivamji is asking, is it possible to get grace of Maharaj-ji or Hanumanji to receive help in moving inside? But I think you answered that in your own way through your sharing. But I guess the Guru can come. It's not that you have to go seeking for Babaji. If Maharaj-ji wants to come, he'll come to anyone, I guess.
Guru is here. We're not here. Really? We're busy. We're busy with stuff. Guru is here, always here. Where else could Guru be? If Guru, God, and Self are the same, where else could Guru be? Here, all the time. We are not here. All of spiritual practice is about us getting here. That's all. And that the Guru is like a magnet slowly pulling us into ourself. It's not complicated, it's just difficult because we're so distracted all the time. And we actually think we are who we think we are. How crazy. That's the definition of insanity, believing what you think. And we all believe what we think. Amazing. So, Ram Nam Karne Se Sab Pura Ho Jata Hai. That's it. That's the bottom line. And you do it, whether you feel it or don't, you do it. You might not be hungry today, but if you don't plant crops for the future, you won't have food. So now we have to do our practice, no matter what we feel, so that the things we want will come. The qualities we want to develop will ripen. Bas!
मैं वही कह रही थी कि हमको बस नहीं कहना है. We didn't want to say bus, but we've taken a lot. I mean, we've kept you here, and I think the satsang could just go on because there's so much to I guess the reason why we are holding on to you is because you're reminding us that it is here. It's not somewhere else in a very concrete manner.
Concrete.
And I think just listening to you is allowing us to is reinforcing that for us. So we're extremely grateful and blessed.
Me too.
And also this thought that came in, that it's in the divine presence that we heal ourselves. And I think as we are listening to it, we are also going through this healing process. I think that's why we want to hold on to it.
Absolutely.
Mm.
You know, Maharaj-ji said, once I take a hold of your hand, I never let go, even when you let go of mine. So when I started to sing with people after 21 years after he died, it was because I needed to find that hand again from my side. So that's the whole deal, finding that hand again.
At Indica Yoga, we are very grateful that you held our hand again this year also. And we know that that hand is there whenever we want to reach out. And again, very grateful to GPIW for making that possible.
Thank you.
But I think we will also pause here and we'll, pause here.
And thanks
I
to
should
Dina
say,
for...
there is no end. It's an ongoing getting together. I don't see Krishnadas very often, but yes, I feel his presence. I mean, we're connected for so many years.
Yeah.
We live not far from each other, but we hardly see each other. This
Yeah.
is an opportunity. But it's what we share is this overwhelming love for Sri Ram. And that's where we meet. We meet in the heart of Ram. And that's where we all meet. And once you meet, there's no separation. So, even though we had, Vinay and Anna, we haven't been in touch really much this past year, I have felt very much in touch with you. I keep saying to Marianne, we've got to set up a Zoom with them, but it didn't happen. And yet we're part of the same, we're together. And so there is no end to this. I know you don't want to let Krishnadas go, but there's no letting him go.
I think that's the positive note on which we'll be pausing this session, that we'll be again meeting again, our roads will cross again, and this is a journey that is started with no end to it.
There's no end. That's the beauty of the journey. It's an ongoing journey. So, Ram.
We'll just make, no, we're not letting you go before another small bhajan for us.
I had a feeling that.
No, I'll tell you what's going to happen. The sequence is when I'll make the announcements for tomorrow's program, and then we'll come back to you. We just allow you to share how people can get more of you. And after that, we will request you for a message, a bhajan, whatever your heart would like to share with us. So Vinay, over to you.
Please. Srinivas-ji, may I request you to kindly present us the event for tomorrow? We were discussing about Ayurveda a short while ago when Krishnadas-ji was referring to Robert Svoboda. So tomorrow we have this session, why an Ayurvedic diet is supportive of your yoga practice. Just to understand and appreciate this fact that whether yoga or Ayurveda, I think seamlessly integrates with one another. So tomorrow this session will be led by Myra Levin, who is one of the well-known names in the field of Ayurveda practice. She's also an author of 3 well-known books in Ayurveda. So she'll be coming tomorrow morning at 7 to 8 a.m. And in the evening, we have Pani K.C. Rashtuji, who will be speaking on Dharma Mega Samadhi of the Yoga Sutras, an intuitive understanding of Dharma Mega Samadhi. He is the program director at Pratambhara Wellness, one of the collaborating organizations of this event. So I request you all to join all these events and continue this journey as Dinaji was saying, this is an ongoing journey, a process that has started, or a seed that has sown, which keeps on growing. So this festival will continue up to 18th July, and this is the second festival at Indica Yoga. Indica Yoga is a platform that aspires to offer authentic, immersive, and transformative yoga experiences across the world. And this is the kind of events what we had with Krishnadas ji, an immersive experience into Bhakti. This is the kind of programs that we would like to take to the people of the yoga world and the general community at large. And we are so happy with the kind of support that we have been receiving, with great teachers coming over this entire month and sharing their knowledge, sharing their insights in such a generous manner. And I also would like to take this moment to inform all our participants that all these sessions are being recorded and they are available for everyone to watch, to connect with on Indica Yoga YouTube channel, on our website that is www.indicayoga.com, and even on our Facebook page. So these are all the various channels through which you can stay connected and again take a revisiting recourse into these sessions that are so beautiful. So with this, over to Krishnadas ji again. Uh, how can people connect with you? Of course, there is your Facebook page where all your programs are presented. Uh, how can they follow your work, connect with you? Yeah, something more that they can get from.
I think the best thing is to go to krishnadas.com. There's a lot of information on there, and my schedule would be on there, and whatever I'm doing would be up on there. Probably also the Facebook page as well, but you know, I don't go there, so I don't know.
No, even today there are hundreds who are connected through Facebook, Krishnadas ji. So,
Yeah.
and lastly, at least to as we bring the session to a pause at this moment, a message or a bhajan, whatever you're inspired to share with us. You have shared with us generously, but there's always a hankering for something more,
Okay,
a
no
little
problem.
more.
Vairagya is
Come
not
on.
very effectively with us.
Yeah.
Vairagya is not exactly our strong point.
No, you know, when Maharaj-ji told me after my nervous breakdown, he said, "Don't worry, you'll be happy when you're married." I said, "Maharaj-ji, I want to marry you." He said, "I'm attached to you." He said, "That's not attachment, that's love." So this, you know, in those days, right around the corner, down the road from Maharaj's temple in Vrindavan, Anandamayi Ma had a temple where she stayed, an ashram. So when Maharaj would throw us out, we'd go to have Ma's darshan. And then we'd come back and Maharaj would say, "You went to see Ma? Did she feed you?" "No, I feed you."
He was possessive about his partitions.
They knew each other very well. Anyway, so I sing this chant from her. Jai Bhagavan, 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 Jai Bhagavan. If we know anything at all about a path, if we know that there might be a way to live in this world in a good way, with an open heart and without fear, if we do, it's only because of the great beings that have gone before us. Out of their love, out of their kindness, they left some footprints for us to follow. So, in the same way that they wish for us, in the same way that they wish for us, we wish that all beings everywhere, all of us, be safe, be happy, that all of us have good health and enough to eat. And may we all live in peace and at ease of heart, with whatever comes to us in life. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti.
Gratitude.
Thank you very much for that heartfelt blessings. And we'd also like to thank the participants who've been there with us all hour beyond our scheduled time, and also the technical staff, Koti ji and Srinivas ji, for their incredible support to all our madnesses and our loving satsangs. Thank you very much. Thank you
Thank
very
you.
much, everyone.
Wonderful to be with you.
Thank you very
Ram
much.
Ram.
Thank you.
To
Ram
the
Ram.